pursue different things that are outside their work area. Pastors are not the only ones on the planet that deserve a sabbatical. I believe many of you do. However, it is built into what we do because we tend to have a 24-hour job sometimes. And this church has been very generous to allow both Brian last year and me this year to take a little bit of time to rest. Now, I took my last sabbatical almost 9 years ago. Almost 9 years ago. And I went to the new Camel Dolly Hermitage. That's a Big Sur. It is just as amazing as it looks. You are correct. If you've never done this, you should do it. It's $140 a night. Your food's included. You get to stay in a little cell that overlooks a 1,000-foot drop to the Pacific Ocean, and you have no cell phone service, which is a gift from the Lord. No one can find you, okay? So I love this place. Kids, check this out. This is a place I went to be quiet with God for several days. You get a little room, you get a bed, a chair, and a desk with a little patio. They feed you. The monks make this incredible food. You go to the middle area and share. Now the crazy thing about this, though, is this is about getting alone with God, getting alone with ourselves for days on end. I did 4 days, 3 nights last time. 4 days, 3 nights. But there's a big rule. You ready for the big rule? No talking. That's the correct response. Like, how did you do it, Jeremiah? A miracle of the Holy Spirit came upon me, and somehow I didn't talk for 4 days. You don't get to talk there. Can you imagine 3 days of not talking? Well, 4, 5, 7, I think I would start having some real problems. So I'm aiming for 5 or 6 days this year. I'm going to go and do this for 5 or 6 days. But while I was there, it was an enjoyable experience. And kids, here's what happened. I drove up to this beautiful road, and you pull in, and I pull up right in front of the chapel, and you go into the bookstore, which is the office, and you're allowed to talk in there. So there's one place you can, like, the extroverts like me, be like, are you human? Can we say something? You can go in there, and I checked in, and I was just enjoying the beauty of this place. The parking lot is right behind this chapel where you see those white tops. So I was parked down there. The monks had just rung the bells to go to their first mass of the day in the morning. So it's this quiet processional goes to the chapel, and I'm like, I'm ready, Jesus. I'm ready to be with you. And then I opened my car door, and apparently my car is the devil. Because my horn started honking, and it was my alarm. And I'm like, oh, no! And I'm like trying to stop it, and it took me a second, and it ruined my whole week. And the monks kicked me out. I never allowed to go back. I had to go back, and my name is Brian McCutcheon now. You're back, Brian. You look different, right? No, not at all. But this is what it is, right? It was this beautiful, awesome place where, now the bad part is, it wasn't the car. That first day of silence was a nightmare. Because I had come running into this thing, busy, sprinting. I worked through a church. We were working 24/7 to help a church transition. And it was a rough time I was coming in with. I had to find myself by my work. Because when we work only work, our work becomes who we are. We become what we do. My friends would say, who are Hindus actually, would say, you become a human doing, Jeremiah, not a human being. Congratulations, you become a human doing. And so in that first day was God wrestling with me to take apart all the identities I built for work. Because as soon as you're quiet with God with nothing to do, kids, and no talking, you are in trouble. In a good way. Because now you're hearing, I love you. I love you the way you are. And I'm like, yeah, but I got to do stuff. I prefer my identity in the stuff I do, not in you, Lord. And once I could say that, I was like, oops. Said that out loud. This is what it is for me, right? This is the restful space. God revealed my inner problems I've been putting off by working too much. Anybody a really good procrastinator in your room? Anybody like a pro? We have some pros that are good. That's good to know. Like, if you're like your house is clean, so that means, oh, you are procrastinating something awful. Like, if I have a paper due, everything is clean. I have the church, all the redwoods are trimmed, you'll know something bad's happening in my life that I've just been procrastinating. I procrastinated this inner life work for years. I show up on one day of silence and God's like, welcome. Let's have a talk. Let's have a talk. And God revealed my inner problems I've been putting off. He showed me I had lost hope. I was living in a hopeless space where I couldn't imagine that that the world was indifferent is where I was moving through, that the space was indifferent. This was not fun, but the first day was that day of misery. The identity being worked and the job I did and being pulled apart. Now, when I say I'm hopeless, hope for me means that I know God is active in the world, and that below all this is love. For me, hope means not just a future going to heaven, but it's that God is active in the world, and that below all this is not a difference or equal to love. Hope is what anchors us. High school students, can I take a moment with you, please? My heart is hurting so much for you right now. What happened at Santa Cruz High School this week was terrifying and awful. You should not have to live in a world where this could be a hoax that happens to you. High school, especially our junior high students. This should not have to happen to you. You should not have to be in a world where you are locked in your classroom for hours having no idea what's going on. You shouldn't have to live in a world where you text your friends who don't go to your school and tell them goodbye and that you love them. You shouldn't have to live in that world. And what is happening in our world is evil. There's no other word for it. It is evil. And the kind of evil, this can affect our hope deeply. But what happened this week, while it was a hoax, can still unnerve us enough to affect our hope deeply. The effect, the world looks indifferent or evil after events like this. And we must remember that hope is who we are. Hope is our birthright. Hope means even when these things happen, we say there's love below this. I know it sounds dumb, but there's love below all of this, even the evil things we saw this week. And that was not the only lockdown in our county this week. This is a new normal, and that new normal is evil. It is not okay what's happening in our world. And what I want you to have is not a space where this becomes your normal and you lose hope in what's happening in the world. I lost hope. I was living in a hopeless cycle, and it took me many days to remind me who I was, and we remind each other in church there's a reason to hope. Okay? The cycle we've all been in is work tells you who you are. Work tells us what we are to do and who we are. Rest tells us we are beloved ones in the Lord, and this fills up our hope tanks again. It fills up what we are. God infuses us with love. When we do not rest, we lose sight of that. We shift our hope from God and His identity for us to hope in stuff, money, security, other people, experiences. How many of you said recently, the next vacation will fix it all? Exactly. The next vacation. And you put all your hope in it, and it wasn't helpful at all. Because you probably filled out with activity too, or it just didn't have the rest you were hoping for. Or the next vacation after that will finally fix it all, and it doesn't, and it doesn't, and it doesn't. The next purchase will finally give me security. When I have an electric car, when I don't have to buy gas at $64.50 a gallon, I finally feel security in my life. I hope I will be happy after this next school project is done. When this one's done, I can finally rest. When this thing is done. Our hope can't be in these things. It must be of God and His love for all creation. Where is your hope meter right now? It's okay if you say I don't have any, or it's neutral, or it's empty. I'm going to invite Lisa. We're going to sing a song, break the sermon up like I said. How do you see the world around you right now? Is it out to get you? Is it mildly indifferent to you? Or is there somebody out there who's looking out for you more than you're looking out for yourself? Are you infused with God's love? Are you seeing a difference? Or maybe you're seeing evil around us. Where is your hope at? Would you stand as you're able and sing Cornerstone with me?
Jesus' love.
assessing myself as I go into sabbatical after the last 7 years of wonderful ministry here and the last 3 years of COVID, which was less than ideal. But wonderful to do with you, to be in this place with you to do that. So my hope is low. I'm going to be honest, I'm a little disappointed with other Christians right now, if that's fair. So that lowers my hope a little bit. Like, I know I'm not supposed to be, there's nobody in this room I'm not like, it's secretly Brian McCutcheon, you're not telling me. But I love disappointment and his ability to serve, that I cannot. But there's a disappointment we're having among each other as Christians, and I think that lowers my hope a little bit. But I don't think it has to do with other Christians. I like to blame other people because it's easier. But I think it has to do with, I have not rested much these last years. Maybe COVID just never allowed for what true rest might look like, a stopping, a ceasing of worry, a ceasing of anxiety, which is what the space of Sabbath was supposed to be. And this is bad. There's an old teaching about this. Ancient Hebrews took this very, very, very seriously. On this slide here, you'll see a verse, and it says this: "You shall keep the Sabbath," which is the day of rest, right? Sabbath is literally the noun version of the verb to rest, to stop, to cease. "You shall keep Sabbath because it's holy for you. Everyone who profanes it will be put to death. Whoever does any work on it will be cut off from among the people. 6 days' work will be done. 7th is the Sabbath, the solemn rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day shall be put to death. Therefore the Israelites shall keep the Sabbath, observing the Sabbath through their generations as a perpetual covenant." I don't know if you were listening all the way there. A couple things. Because of the blessing that God gave us rest. We talked this a few weeks ago. God gave the gift of ceasing from work. And then when we cease from work, there's a time when we stop in our schedule this week. You can imagine maybe your schedule this next week, everybody. There's a time where you're going to cease work. So what God said at creation was that ceasing time is blessed and holy. Now he said, why did he bless work? I don't know why he didn't bless work, but I think he knew we were going to overwork ourselves. And there was some blessing in work, but when at creation, the last act was not humans, it was to bless ceasing. The energy of the universe was when we cease, we enter a new space and a new time where it is a blessed time. What does blessing mean to me? Well, it means God tells me I'm full of hope, and he tells me I'm beloved enough, and that fills my hope meter. When I enter rest, there is a space in which I will now tap into God, my deepest self. We will have a conversation, and God will remind me of who I most truly am and my identity. It's different from school time. It's different from work time. It's different from busy time. Rest is a different time. And the Hebrews have obviously taken this very seriously. It became a part of their identity, who they were. They became, in history, you know what they're known for? They're the people who rest. In all the cultures they existed in, people thought they were nuts for taking an entire day off work. All of them just stopped. You ever go to Jerusalem to visit? From Friday night sundown to Saturday night, it is a ghost town. It's an urban center with no one. And the second the sun goes down Saturday, it is a party. It is like San Francisco, Times Square. But that place, you imagine Times Square empty? That's what it feels like during Sabbath. Because they're the people who rest. I wonder if we did this. If we became the people who rest. We became, how are you going to push against American culture? We rest. We rest together. This church is all the rest you give yourself anymore. You know that. It was meant to be a whole day. This is why church is maybe disappointing some of us, because it was only supposed to launch the Sabbath day for you. It wasn't supposed to be an hour where you're like, I rested, back to work. You're supposed to be like, here's church, now rest all day. Sit, talk with family, go for a walk. Do worthless things. There's rest for you. Worthless things. The kids are like, Mom, it's rest day. That's not TV, kids. Take it easy. And then there's this part of the verse, rest or die. What's the name of the sermon? I thought it was appropriate for Halloween. Rest or die. Now here's my question. Because there's a lot of laws like this in the New Testament, Old Testament, and I think I follow all of them, right? So I'm like, does this really happen? Like really, like there's somebody like me who's a little like aggro, doesn't like stopping, and I'm like, I'm just going to quickly put this away at someone's death. We killed him because he put his groceries away or something, or a grocery shop. It did. When the Israelites were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering sticks. Those who found him gathering sticks brought him to Moses, Aaron, this is right after the law was given, and put it in front of the whole congregation. So the whole church, we had to come together like a business meeting and go, okay, Tony was found gathering sticks, folks. What are we going to do? God told us to kill him. How are we going to handle that? And the verse is pretty legit. They're like, and they didn't know what to do. They put him in custody because it was not clear what should be done to him. Like, to me, if God said this, like, hey, I sure will kill people with no rest. But then someone does it, you're like, oh no. What do we do? He said to do it, and then it just happened. And now we're in this moment. And the Lord says to Moses, the man shall be put to death. Everyone in the congregation will stone him. Good times for Halloween. Enjoy, kids. Bye. Wrap up the sermon. Blessing time. What on earth? There's a couple things that happen here. These are my questions. Is God crazy? What is happening in this story? What on earth is going on in this story? The story is totally nuts. The man did not rest till they killed him. They kind of didn't want to, though. They stalled, they procrastinated, is what they were doing. Let's have a meeting. Meetings are what adults do to procrastinate kids, by the way. They're like, well, we don't want to talk about it. Let's have a meeting about it, or a conversation. And they clearly did not want to. It was not clear what should be done. Now, I don't always know what to do with stories like these kids. I'm going to be really honest with you. But a couple of things. It's only ever had to happen once. After that, they were the people of rest. I don't know that it justifies it, but for some reason it was enough, like, we're good. Because they all owned it, the punishment, they all became a people of rest from this day on. They engaged with God with rest. One man died on that day, and the Israelites to this day, over 3,000 years later, are still the people of rest. They're still the people whose identities are in the center of rest and Sabbath and ceasing. Without rest, I'm going to do a little bigger thing here, kids. Without rest, we die from the inside out, is how I read this text. Without rest, you're already dying. You just don't know you are. We are killing ourselves from the inside out without rest. Constant work and busy, which is Silicon Valley culture, which is what it's teaching us, the gig culture, you aren't to rest. Even in retirement, you should not really be resting. Because that's wasted time. You should be walking and puttering and doing different things that aren't actually rest. Without rest, we die from the inside. Without taking God's rest seriously, we lose ourselves in our culture, which invites death into our lives. It invites us into our families. It invites us into our relationships and our friendships. Come on, Jeremiah, you're overplaying this. Part of me thinks that too, but that part is American, and I think that part is wrong. If an old story tells us that someone lost their life because of not resting, I think it's meant to tell us that God takes rest very, very, very seriously, and we should follow suit. But you know you die without rest. You know this. Alan also shared this with us last week, that most of us only rest when we get sick. That our rest is when our bodies crash. When we go, our rest is sickness and injury. I prefer injury over sickness, personally. But maybe you like one or the other. Wayne Miller says it this way: if we don't allow for a rhythm of rest in our overly busy lives, illness becomes our Sabbath. Illness becomes our Sabbath. Our pneumonia, our cancer, our heart attack, our accidents create Sabbath for us. Illness becomes our Sabbath. With no rest, we do not plug into the one who gives us hope. With no hope, we die slowly. And these illnesses are our deepest body going, stop. You are missing the point of all of this. You're missing it all. Shall we sing one more time for the Lord who invites us to rest this morning? Would you stand as you're able?
It's so sweet to trust in Jesus.
this morning, just a couple of things going on. We're doing our directory right now, our church directory. So make sure you get a picture. This is Rick and Karen. This is Rick and Karen. So take them outside. We're going to put out a physical copy of the directory. So if you come sometimes, if you come all the time, please get a picture. Please fill it out. You are part of our church family. This helps us out with names. When you get one too, you'll be like, that person I'm sitting with will have it in front of you. You don't have to call them dude anymore. You can call them the right name for once. So please check in with them. We're doing this directory. We're going to put it out. We're so grateful to the two of them for directing this right now. Secondarily, some of you might notice outside there's more sunshine than normal coming through the tent because it's gone. It's supposed to start raining this week, and we are going to have like a tent raising party. It's like a barn raising party, but different. It is about a 200-pound tent, so I tried to do it by myself, and I'll be an injury and Sabbath, which is not what we want. So next Saturday at 5:30 p.m., we'll put out an email as well. We're going to invite you who would like to come and help to get the tent up, pull the poles down, put the new tarp on, and lift it up and put it back. It's going to require about 8 to 10 of us to get up in the air. If you're above 7 feet, that would be really helpful. We're 6 to 8. My son can help. Last time I did about 6 for us. So if you're willing to come and have some fun with us, I'll bring a snack. How's that? So there's always food at church. And we'll do a little tent raising party to be ready for the rainy season. I think about the more I rest, the more I trust in Jesus. This is such a weird series to me because it's so basic. The more I rest, the more I trust. The less I rest, the less I trust. The more I rest, the more I have hope. The less I rest, the less I have hope. And we have no wonder why God's like, rest. Take a day. Take some hours to your day. I was at a pastor's conference a couple of years ago, and they were talking about overwork in America, and especially among pastors, and how it was affecting them. Friends of my pastor friends of mine who were 80 and 90 hours, also known as part-time in Silicon Valley, a week. And I know this is part-time for some of you, I get that, but that's a lot of work they were putting in. I think at one point our superintendent Paul told me he was doing 80 to 90 hours a week. And they know that when we overwork with no rest, we experience a specific type of hopelessness. It's a specific type. And I remember I was in this talk, and I'm like, this is very feely, this is going to be dumb. And then they put this slide up, and they said, you might be experiencing situational depression. I was like, no, I don't have depression. And then I started reading these, and I was like, oh, those sound familiar. Sadness, hopelessness, lack of enjoyment in normal activities, regular crying. This doesn't count if you watch like me, like TV shows that just make you cry all the time, which I do. That's different. Constant worrying or feeling anxious or stressed out. Constantly. Sleeping difficulties. Disinterest in food, which I've never experienced. Trouble focusing. Trouble carrying out daily activities. Feeling overwhelmed. Avoiding social situations and interactions. Not taking care of important matters like paying bills, going to work, or doing schoolwork. And you're like, Jeremiah, that's all of us. My point. Exactly. This is our culture right now. We are in situational depression together. This is what we're all going through together. Not just we are all the overworked. Whatever happened in the last few years, this is what many people are coming to. I'm not telling stories, it's all of you. Okay? When you meet with me, one of these comes up. Always. Whatever happened these last years, this is our symptoms. And guess what? This is so dumb. Now I'm leaning into this talk like, oh, I'm interested. It's a friend of mine who's like this. I want to listen more. I have a friend of mine that's experienced. My kids are experiencing this. I want to read this. But our kids are experiencing this. I've had the honor of leading some small groups. Once I got to lead our high school girls small group, which by the way is the best thing happening in our church. I know you're like, our small group is. That's not true. We have to give in and take care of each other on Sunday nights. And I got to sit in and they put up my dad jokes, and they're beautiful things to watch. But they're saying these things. They're saying this is where we are. We're giving this to our children. Their birthright is not hope, it's situational depression. That's what I give my kids. This is the gifts we give each other these days. And it breaks my heart. So they said, here's what you do. Who's got situational depression? And the whole pastor room was like, everybody did. The whole room did. By the way, how do you recommend treating it? Take a day off. Is all they said. Rest. Bring Sabbath back in. Cease. Stop. For the love of Christ. Stop. Stop. Please stop. It's going to feel worthless. It's going to feel empty, but you need to stop. I need to stop. Enter into the place where you are you, which is rest. Enter into the place where you're no longer the human doing, you're no longer a student, or an employee, or a boss, or a father, or a mother, or a child. You are you, the beloved one of Christ. And you simply feed off that. John uses the word abide. Show up and abide. Just be here. What might rest look like for you? Like, if you could dream of it, what might rest look like for you? What is it? Last 2 weeks I've been asking questions. What's the opposite of rest? I asked a couple weeks ago. Last week I asked for just words that are synonymous with rest. Now I want to know what it looks like. Okay, you ready? You have 6 hours off this week. Do what you want. Not what you should. Do what you want with that time. 6 hours. What are you dreaming right now? What are you dreaming of? Besides not going to school that day. What are you dreaming of? I found, by the way, these things, when I share them, embarrass me a little bit. Like, I get a little I like to sit at the shrine and read Shakespeare. And I get plays out, and I get a commentary, and I sit all morning at the Shrine Coffee by the Ocean, and I read Shakespeare, and it brings love into my life. With nowhere to go for the day. You're like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's why I didn't want to share it with you. Thanks a lot. That's why I was embarrassed to share it. I rest working with my hands, too. Maybe because I'm so American. But Rick Warren, a pastor, once said, we sit at desks all week. He gardens. I like to get out and work with my hands just a little bit as part of rest. I used to work with my grandfather's farm, and that was my rest day. Tractor driving, there's nothing more restful if you don't drive tractors than tractor driving. Disking a field is the most glorious activity of productive. It's like, look what I did. My grandma was like, I didn't even need that one. I don't care. Hammocks are rest. I hide a hammock in the woods with a book, or with nothing, but no phone, or no phone. What does real rest look like for you? Ready? I want you to give yourself a gift of 3 hours this week. Now, this is the problem. I think some people think it's spontaneous. This will require planning, and I understand that. Your family will need to know your phone's unplugged for 3 hours. So your spouse or your children are like, are they dead? No, they're fine. The phone's unplugged. And do what is rest to you. 3 hours. I would like you to put it in your calendar. I want this week to be special too, because I know our students from Scotts Valley, at least, are off school this week. So offer some time to do this. Sorry, everybody else, kids. You don't get Halloween off for some reason. What does real rest look like? And when you leave today, put in your schedule and do the 3 hours of what it looks like to you. Plan it with your family, plan it with your spouse, put it in the calendar, plan it out, and please try it. See what comes of it. I'm not telling you this you're a better worker. I don't care. I'm not telling you this you get better grades, students. I don't care today about that. I do care, but I don't care. I want you to rest. I want you to know your belovedness. And I can only say it to you so much when you sprint back out those doors into your lives. 3 hours. Do it today if you need to, if you're a procrastinator. I beg you for 3 hours of rest. That your hope may increase. That your understanding of the love below all things will be your vision for the world. This I ask of you and challenge you. It will be hard for me too. I have a full week, and I will be taking 3 hours to myself. It will be harder for my wife to do, but she will be taking 3 hours this week to herself, which is probably the Raiders winning later today. Well, right now, perhaps they're winning. If you're willing to receive my blessing, will you stand where you are as you're able? Simply lay your hands in front of you as such. Beloved ones, may you not be discouraged that you are in situational depression, that you're a little hopeless, that things are a little hard, that life feels like a circle. May you simply know that the realization of that is a grace from God. It is the Holy Spirit moving in your life as she has in mine. May you hear clearly this week what rest is. May you remember and not forget to enjoy 3 hours, and may God meet you, Father, Son, and Spirit, in a way, and remind you of your belovedness, that you may see love everywhere. Grace and peace to you, Community Covenant Church. We will see you next week.